I do have a question though, as far as pending, does it seem like that there is some additional properties pending more often? It's not just completely dead.
It's not completely dead. No, there are things moving. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, so kind of speaking to that, so there are deals that are being considered before hitting the MLS. Offers are sometimes below asking. They may be considered. So buyers have a little more wiggle room. Inventory is continuing to grow. And the market is correcting. So things are changing.
So when you say it requires adjustment, can you say more about that?
So we had property selling at pretty high value or prices. And so as the market is correcting and the interest rates, as you can see from this slide, are going up, buyers are either not qualifying for as much because the interest rate is going up. And so there are some corrections, or, you know, the prices are decreasing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, so I got these numbers from the lenders that are listed here. Dave Rusk at ICCU, 30-year fixed for second home or investor property is at 7%. Single family resident with 25% down. It's a little bit less at 6.375 if it's your primary residence. Summit Funding has an interesting product where it's a HELOC, first position, 3-year fixed, but that's at 3.28. So we are hoping to get Nate maybe come next month and present what he has to offer so that you guys will have more information. And then also Tom Sardi, he is at KeyBank. He said that things are just changing constantly right now. So he may, you know, something that is accurate today could change tomorrow. So I guess the ball just keeps moving.
Do you know if on the HELOC if there's an access fee?
I do not know. I don't believe that there is. So
Go back and I couldn't see what was written on the bottom there, starting 9.4 clients will be required to.
oh, to have at least a, so yes, thank you for bringing that up, Bobby. So at KeyBank, starting is it tomorrow? Starting Saturday, I think Saturday is the 24th. Clients will be required to have 100,000 in either checking or saving or some kind of investment account to get the rates mentioned with KeyBank. Yeah. Yeah.
100,000.
Yeah.
Just sit there,
Just sitting there,
just so you have.
hanging out.
Getting their money.
That's basically the down payment that
So, well, I don't know that it's a down payment because that money is sitting outside of what your down payment is for the property. We'd probably need to get more information from Tom. So maybe he can come next month and clarify as well. As far as duplexes and fourplexes, this is the Ada County. I'll move over a little bit so hopefully you guys can see this.
What was the product KeyBank had?
The product that KeyBank has is, I think it's a conventional 30-year fixed. Mhm.
Okay.
So duplexes and fourplexes. So the KPIs are stable. Cap rates are trending upwards. So that's awesome. Pending deals has dropped to 11. Inventory took a little bit of a dip down to 15 units. and sales are anywhere from 12 to 13. And I've got some charts that are coming up here to show you these. Absorption level is less than 1 month in all these categories, except for Canyon County. So this slide goes backwards. So 2000, August 31st, 2002 is right there. So Ada County duplexes and fourplexes. There were 4 fourplexes and 4 duplexes that sold last month. So for Canyon County, 3 fourplexes and 2 duplexes that sold. And then this is the GRM trend. As you can see, it's starting to come down a little bit.
Gross rate.
Yes. I had to write it down. So there was only 1 sale in June. The GRM has been around 200. If the rent's at 220 equals a price of 1.4 million. So, and then the cap rates, as you can see, they're starting to go up. And the average price of the fourplexes. So it looks like those have leveled off about 700,000. And then days on market has increased. I think that's pretty consistent with just the market in general. And then these are the active Ada and Canyon County fourplexes. And then here are the Ada and Canyon County 5 or more multifamily units.
Have you seen much in the way of price reduction, or is it just listing at lower price?
There have been some price reductions, and it depends on how many days they're on market. Typically, if there's no action, then people are going to make adjustments, see if they can't get a little more attention.
Is that one of the reasons the cap rates seem to be going?
I would think so. Yeah.
Or if rents increased quite a bit.
I think that the rents have leveled off. Jim would be better to answer that question, but I believe that rents have leveled off, and it's the prices that are coming down that are affecting the cap rates.
Yeah, rents overall have leveled slight dip, but not nearly the dip that the price still necessary.
So how long is a home on the market before they'll typically?
Typically 2 weeks, I believe. Yeah.
Is it better to make little reductions, or is it one big one?
You know, I think what's best is to, what we do is we do a CMA, a market analysis, and look and see what other prices are selling for, you know, compare the properties and try and make an educated guess as to what the best tactic is. So there are more options other than just reducing the price. You know, we can do more open houses or advertise, get it on all of the social media accounts. Tell your friends, you know, there's lots of ways of getting the information out there. But if the price is too high, it's going to have to come down to get the interest. So this is basically talking about just that, Bobby. So, you know, as you can see, the median price has dipped a bit, probably, I would guess, $25,000, $30,000.
It's really good for me to see this though, because that dip doesn't feel good in the moment. That- your perspective, which you kind of see Still not bad.
Yeah, I don't think that it's not bad. I mean, we had such a steep increase. You know, nobody could keep up with that. And it was just unrealistic for that projection, in my opinion, to keep going. So I think a little correction is okay. Okay, so what's happening with single family residences? So because the rates are higher, it's pushing people so that a lot of first-time home buyers aren't qualifying for as much. The inventory is growing slightly. It's giving buyers a little more negotiating power. Starter homes are at 500,000. That seems kind of crazy to me. Yeah, and the rents are softening just a little bit. So days on market are increasing. This is single family in Ada County. As you can see, the median price is $565. Days on market is 29. And as of the end of last month, there were 2,374 houses available. 732 had sold for
So that's
August.
only Ada County.
That's Ada County. That's correct.
Not inventory.
And then Canyon County, the median price is $440,990. So it has come down slightly, but not that much, only about $4,000. There were 389 houses that sold in Canyon County last month, and their inventory is a little bit lower at 1,336. So with 31 days on market. So that's my market update. I didn't pass out, so you guys are good. Thank you. We are super excited to have Jim, Sharone, and Ryan. What? Yost. Well, yeah, I thought I said sure.
Oh.
Did I say your last name wrong? No,
You
I've
did
got
fine.
Yost. Okay. With First Rate Property Management, they have a presentation for you guys, and I'm super excited to hear what they have to say.
So just like what she did, we're gonna do it on the rental side. So hopefully we'll be able to zip through some slides, answer some questions, and let you know how the rental stuff is going. So that's what we're here to talk about, the rental market. So this is gonna be, we aren't super into the real estate side of things, although Realty Tony was the old owner, obviously heavy in real estate. So we have a little bit of knowledge, but our wheelhouse is the rents. So hopefully today we can provide you an update of today's rental market, how to limit your liability as an investment property owner, and then okay, are there things that you could do to make your properties more appealing, since we are seeing a dip or plateau in the rental market. We are seeing days on market a little bit longer, vacancy rate a little bit higher. So is there something we can do to combat that?
Well, so this is the vacancy rate for us. So down here first, this is as of today, just right now for the properties we have and how many we have vacant. So that's why it's at 0.55. This year's average up until September is at 1.21. And last year at the same time, we were at 0.59. So you can see that we have a lot more properties that are vacant. So there's a ton of different reasons that we'll go over that this could be happening. We believe it has slowed down, but it has kind of plateaued. It hasn't really dropped off, or it's just been like a complete panic. You can see here that we're still kind of competing. This is the vacancy rate for all of Ada County and Canyon County. So you can see they are a little bit higher. Especially compared to last year, these numbers were below 1%. So multifamily, you can see, is a little bit less than single family homes. We've kind of seen that too happen. A lot of our apartments are real desirable, whereas a single family home isn't as much. And there's reasons to that too, such as roommates and costs and blah, 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 that we'll talk about. Cool, and then some trends that we're seeing. So over here first, we have the median prices for the single family homes getting rented in Ada County and in Canyon County in red. And then there's also multifamily. We get this information from our NARPM group. It's a national residential property manager thing.
And that's
So,
local data though.
I can't see that at all. I don't know if anybody else can. but-
Yeah, I'll explain the numbers. So 2 bedrooms, you're looking at 1650 here in Ada County and 1550 in Canyon County. So there is a little bit more of an increase in Ada than Canyon for those 2-bedroom apartments. As far as 3 bedrooms for single family homes, or sorry, not apartments, single family homes is what we're talking about. 2100 for the 3 bedrooms and 1950. So that's about $150-ish that we're seeing you can get more here in Ada County. 4-bedroom houses, they're at $2570 here in Ada County and $2515 in Canyon County. I would say this number might be a little bit bigger of a margin as far as like what we see, but there is definitely an increase as far as a 4-bedroom here in Boise, Idaho than in Nampa. And then 5 bedrooms, there's not a whole ton, but 2,800 for Ada County and 2,473 for Canyon County. That's about a $150 difference again. So you can see that's about the price range you're getting per bedroom per county. It's about $150 on each one of those. As far as multifamily homes, this is kind of where it gets interesting. 3 bedrooms, it looks like there is a little bit more of an increase in Canyon County than in Ada County. So apartment complexes are filling up faster. That could be due to everything that's getting built out there. I don't know if you drove down the freeway and you can see stuff popping up right and left everywhere. But for 2 bedrooms, we're still a little bit more in Boise. We're about $70 more.
Could you say the amounts, please?
Yeah, 1470 and 1405. So 1470 here in Boise, 1405 in Canyon County. It's about $70 difference, so not a whole ton there. And then same with the 1 bedroom, it's 1473 here in Ada County, and then 1398 in Canyon County. It's about another $70 difference.
Did I
And-
understand you correctly that the numbers that you're seeing are not quite as high as what you're seeing to us?
The margin would be a little bit different as far as like location wise and stuff, but we have seen a spike in people wanting to live out in like Meridian and stuff. I'd say Boise was very desirable, but people are kind of settling for stuff out that way nowadays. But it is kind of another weird statistic here. You can see a 1 bedroom and a 2 bedroom. They're going for a lot of the same or close to the same pricing as far as the NARPM information.
So that data is just local, so it is limited to people that participate in our NARPM thing. So not foolproof numbers, but it's
Are they consistent with what you two are personally?
yes, all except for the 2 bedrooms we are still getting probably another $100 to $150.
Yeah, I would say
Per
the
bedroom.
1 bedrooms would probably be down a little bit.
A little lower than
I
that,
don't
and the
see them
2
going
bedrooms
for
high.
1,500 a lot of the times unless they're really nice in a really nice location or have like a loft or something like that. But I would say that this 1 bedroom for multifamilies, we would say would go down a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a little skewed.
It's not as the same price. And then some of those reasons that could be affecting these things, the rental market has slowed and it's dipping. We kind of talked about that. There is a dip to it. But we did have such a big increase. How do you sustain that for so long? And there's times going on and stuff. Are properties getting better? Are there upgrades? Like, is it worth this much money? Those are things that to consider when you're thinking of a new rental price. Taking longer to get rented at a lower price. So they have been sitting a little bit longer. We even do advertising like 30 days before. They're actually people moving out and stuff. So they're advertised for a very long time. That's why we've had such great success in the past years of low days on market. But now this year, even with doing that, we're seeing them sit for a lot longer. So they're rent ready sitting. And we like to get them assigned these before they're even rent ready. So we've seen that change a lot this year.
When you
Yeah,
say a
we're-
lot longer, what do you mean?
We're looking about 23 days on market
Wow.
to get rented versus what we were, it was 16. So it is up almost 2 weeks.
And there's tons of factors like some that we talked about here, but also like supply chain and when we advertise it as rent ready and things like that. But another big one, we've seen a lot of BSU properties sit this summer. That could be a lot to do with online schooling. We didn't see that huge wave that we usually see of all those kids and all the moms calling us trying to get them into an apartment. So this BSU property is definitely something about with COVID and everything going on. A lot of people can do stuff from home now, and they don't need to be on campus all the time. The demand is diminishing while supply is increasing. Same with the real estate market. We just see more and more rentals pop up, and there's a lot more competition. So there's certain things you have to do to your properties or ideas to come up with to make it a little bit better, a little more appealing to the renter than the other one. And then another one that we were thinking about is a roommate scenario is increasing and leading to less demand. So when rents do increase, people got to qualify and everything. A lot of people don't make a bunch of money, and you might have to get a roommate just to qualify. So now you're living with another couple or something. And now that takes two people from getting two different houses. Now they're getting one. That could be a lot. We've seen tons and tons of roommates, co-signers, and things like that with increasing values and stuff.
Unforeseen side effect.
Oh, that's why the new stainless steel applies.
Trying to up the draw.
Nice.
Well, and to retain, it's a retention strategy. We have an owner with 32 units that's switching all of his appliances all at once to stainless. They're mismatched, white or black. This was pulled the trigger before things have dipped a little bit more, but he wants to get his rents up at renewal, so he's trying to entice people to renew, and the prospective tenants.
Yeah, they're thinking like, do I want to stay here and pay X amount of dollars, or could I move into a place that was newly renovated on this side of town for the same amount of money? So if you are going to increase your rents and stuff like that, there's things, if it's just sitting for years and years, like it might not be worth it at that point, especially to a renter.
How do you do the roommate scenario? Rental one and or you have multiple contracts?
Everyone's on the lease that lives at the property, but they're
One lease.
combined income, because your income, some property managers do 3 times 3, 2.5, but that all adds up to 1. And then we take like an average credit score, so it's not just like one person's credit score.
You don't have like one person primarily.
No, unless there's a co-signer, but co-signers wouldn't be living at the property. Yeah,
They're all equally
responsible.
responsible.
Yep.
For the unit. So
So do they give their money to one person who pays you, or they each pay their share?
It depends on how they do it in their portal. They could each pay their own amount, or they could send it to one person and he could pay it. So, but it's totally up to them. We just collect it.
Oh,
most people do one amount, and they want to. Most landlords, we don't care if it's 5 payments, 1 payment.
Oh.
So it just depends.
Yes.
What's your record when you have this roommate coming in, so you have the amount of rent between two of them? What's your record with one of them moving out? Usually it's the high income person.
Yeah.
With regard to subsequent evictions or loss of rent.
So we definitely do roommate adjustments. We get those all the time. There's different scenarios and stuff, but you'll still have to meet the qualifications to rent the property.
Yeah, that's to get in, but when one of them like,
Moves
not a good
out.
roommate, or she's not a good roommate, now you've got the low income person left to handle the rent with the high, usually, I may say, maybe or may not be the low income person. But what's your history of that happening?
Does leasing check that again when they do the roommate adjustments?
So you can't get off the lease as a roommate or whatever unless you have somebody take your place, or joint release where the one person can stand alone on the credit and income qualifications and everything. So just because Johnny moves out doesn't mean they're off the hook necessarily.
They're not off the hook, but they may stop paying.
Yeah, our eviction rate is less than 0.1%. So with 1,100 properties, so we don't see evictions very often. We don't usually have to do that. We usually either come to an agreement for them to move out or do a roommate adjustment.
So pretty much what we're saying is like, it's just that low income person, it's on them, pretty much. If they're not going to pay rent and stuff, they are the sole person on that lease now because that other person's off, and they're going to be responsible. So if they're not making rent payments and stuff, it's now on them.
And they don't qualify to get off the lease unless they make enough. Like, so they can't just leave. You have to have either I qualify alone or you're bringing somebody in that now between the two qualifies.
So they're requalifying them when they do that. They,
Well,
person
I
wanted
guess
to,
my question is, when you won't rent to the one person, when you rent to both. You're still kind of avoiding the question, are your vacancies any more with a single person that can pay the rent and then that doesn't pay the rent? That vacancy rate, I mean, that's the eviction rate versus when you have this person and then this other person needs a roommate, two of them come in, one of them takes off because they don't get along. And now this person doesn't have enough money, maybe it's not off the hook, but he's not paying. He went to chip up two. So the vacancy is the eviction rate higher for that kind of a rental situation as when you have one independent person.
I would say no, like most of the evictions we've dealt with this year and stuff, I haven't had one of those. A lot of the time, it's more people that just move in, they're not, they don't have like tons of income and stuff, but that's not a scenario that we see a whole ton. I haven't dealt with one of these years with evictions that we have.
The reason I bring it up is I've always dreaded that kind of a situation. And I'm fortunate to be able to rent to somebody where they didn't have to drag in somebody else so that they can make the rent.
Right.
And I'm just, but the law is, that's what you got to do, and that always bothers me as far as being prudent as an investor.
Right. Yeah, we don't see much of a difference, but we don't rent, like, we don't find two separate people. Like, you got to come with me with two people. So they already typically have some kind of relationship, which may or may not impact that. But
Yeah.
because we don't place different tenants just for, it could be a nightmare. So.
And then there's
we
things
let
where
them-
we do co-signer adjustments. They pay a fee, we go do an inspection, things like that, and then they have to qualify on their own to make it. So there is ways after they move in to get people off the lease or on the lease.
So it's still a single lease with the starts and stops for all tenants at the same time,
Yes.
Yep.
right? It's not asynchronous or anything.
Yep, and then there'd be an addendum signed, a roommate adjustment.
So one off, one on, but approved and signed and all that.
Yep.
So some things to think about we talked about liability briefly. There's things to think about as far as a landlord on keep yourself out of trouble. We're seeing more and more, this world is becoming litigation crazy. So just know your facts so you can stay out of trouble. And even though you do everything right, you still may have to go to civil court, different courts. So just know that I would have an eviction attorney to represent you if you can, or have an attorney that you can talk to as far as civil. But to keep you out of that situation is know the fair housing laws. It's a lot of things that are very touch and go with fair housing. We could have a whole presentation on fair housing, but got to treat everybody equal, more or less. So even though somebody's story may be different, you make an exception for one, you need to make it for all. Because if you don't, even though it happened to be a female, you make an exception for, and then the next one's a male, now you have a prejudice, even though it was a situation and a person. So treat everybody fairly, but that only applies if you have an over 5 units. So
Are you seeing many fair housing? Fair housing?
we see it in the industry a lot. We haven't had fair housing, but locally, yes. Locally, people have had it, and they fund themselves by fines. So they are testing, they'll call us, they'll call all the property managers and ask questions to try to get us to tell them something wrong, or to see if we're playing favorites. A lot of that comes with the emotional support animals, service animals. We can't, and we have a spelling issue. Anyway, emotional support animals, we can't say no to those if they have a valid doctor's note or reason. And that's different from a pet. Pets where you can allow or not allow, charge or not charge. A ESA or service animal, you gotta allow them, can't charge deposit, can't charge anything extra. Their pets damage the unit, you can charge them for that, but after the fact. Do you have a question?
Yeah, in the airline industry, emotional support animals aren't recognized as service animals anymore. Has that changed anything with real estate?
No, if they have a note from from somebody in the know. That's literally what it says, is in the know. Meaning the post office guy could know you have anxiety, your doctor. There's a lot of fraudulent stuff. You can go to a website online. They try to shut them down, but as soon as they shut one down, 5 pop up. So you can get a false one. We do go through those, and if it doesn't have the right stuff, we will deny them or make them provide a new one if it's dated. So we try to screen those in-house. But at the end of the day, we've heard that doctors will, I have anxiety though. Okay, you need this animals. They're very quick to provide them, even though they're, they can.
And does that define like what they have to have to qualify as an emotional support?
Yeah.
Pretty easy to find out.
Yeah.
And we usually like to get like, instead of a card, we'll always ask for like a doctor's note, like with the written doctor's note. Because that just means it's more legit, because it's coming from a person and not just bought and sent to you.
You don't know, you can't ask what their disability is. You have to, or need. You just have to, somebody has to say they have a need. And if they choose to disclose why, that's one thing, but we can't request what the issue is, because.
Can you require that it be done by a local person, a local doctor with a bricks and mortar place?
No.
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 So it could be out of state.
Yeah,
They
and
even have like phone call ones now. and
the
stuff.
biggest thing is telehealth. They're
Yeah.
doing that, and
Yeah, that's changed a lot.
yeah,
You said 5 units. You need 5 single family units
or doors.
5 doors?
Yeah.
Period.
Anything, basically, if you're more than that, you have to follow that. If you're less than that, then you can, when you're screening your tenants, you can pick whatever. But for us, or if you have more than that, then it's first come, first serve on your applications and everything. If you're doing it right.
So maybe you don't know this, but I recently bought a place that has a homeowners association.
Mhm.
And so they have this rule that only property owners can have animals, but no renters or tenants or short-term or anything like that.
Your HOA is dated and playing with fire.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
and the
scary.
same thing with a timeshare, saying the same thing. And they're hardcore about making.
Yeah, and you can always make it no pets, but when it comes to animals, which are you need a note for,
The service animals are not the same, emotional support is not the same as a service animal.
in our industry, it is. Pretty
And
much.
so I started doing my own research, and it seems very clearly that it is.
Mhm.
It's 5 minutes of research to see that
Yeah.
it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the type of animal, it doesn't matter anything.
No.
The only thing that matters is it's an elephant in a tiny apartment.
Right.
Know? So it really I felt much more vulnerable than I ever did before once I started researching. That you can't even say it's against your insurance, you have to go fight an insurance thing
Yeah, and most insurances don't have that
anymore.
restricted breeds or any of that for that reason.
Okay.
Side note, if you don't allow pets, you're something to think about. I'm not giving necessarily advice, but something to think about. If you're saying no pets, you're encouraging them to get them to be an assistance animal or support animal. So what we tell a lot of our owners is, I would allow pets because we could charge for pets. And typically they're going to come in and they can pay an upfront. You can do a deposit, you can do a non-refundable fee, you can do pet rent each month. There's a lot of options, or a little bit of all of that you can do. And so then at least you're getting that and income that would go towards the pet damage or whatever might happen. And in our experience, we don't see a lot of pet damage. To put it in perspective, we get probably, I would say 10, 12 units a year where the pets have peed on the carpet so bad we have to replace it.
You must not have yards.
Well, we're about 60% multifamily. So a lot of that doesn't have yards, but the other 40% is multifamily or duplex where there's yards. So we have a fair amount. You don't see it a ton. You don't see very often. I can count on one hand where you see like chewed the door frames and doors up and stuff like that. So what we've seen is your carpet replacement. So if that hedges your risk to what your potential reward is for allowing pets versus non-assistance, that's, take it for what it's worth. We would, if I have partners in a property and we allow pets, and I wholeheartedly believe in that, just because I think the benefit outweighs the risk, only because you can skirt it with your emotional support animals.
Yeah.
So Other things to think about, collecting rent. It's getting dangerous if you got somebody coming to your house or whatever. So online portal is great. You see a lot of in the news, unfortunately, not around here, but you see in the news where people going to collect or post a 3-day notice to pay rent, or getting, assaulted or shot or whatever. So I would encourage a online system to where they don't have to drop it off. Preventative maintenance, something to consider, going through your properties at least once a year to see what's going on, to see if you catch a plumbing leak early, to see if your tenants have disabled your smoke detectors, whatever. Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious, as a property management company, what kind of preventative maintenance schedule?
We do an annual inspection, and we'll go through any unit that hasn't been turned and recently turned over, because obviously we've done it all. And we'll go through and fine tooth comb. We'll notate if there are pets in there, whether our technicians don't know. So they mark them yay or nay, and we check them when we get back. Oh, hey, they don't have a pet on their lease. Because we do notate whether it's an assistance animal or a pet, whatever. We know that when there's an animal in there. So we check that. We've caught countless water heaters starting to leak, and typically your water heaters, when they go out, they don't stop making hot water. They continue to make hot water, they just start leaking all over the place. Especially multifamily, when they're second, third story, now you're talking 3 different units that potentially are damaged in some regard. And again, we're back to the litigation, everything. You can't just mop it up and call it a day, depending on what it is. You're supposed to send a professional cleanup vendor to either dry and prevent mold, or if it's like sewer water, they call it gray water, that's supposed to be cleaned up a different way. So there's a whole can of worms there, but we'll check door stops. A $2 door stop is way better than a $50 or $100 hole in the wall. Light plumbing, caulking in the bathroom is big. Yes.
So with the hot water heaters, especially upstairs, what age do you recommend owners replace those?
I believe they're rated for 7 to 10 years. We're pushing. We do a program each year where we offer a bulk rate. We can get a bulk rate to buy them and install them because they're just getting nuts as far as prices go for plumbers. So we recommend, I think it's 12 years. But I mean, you just never know. It could be. We pulled out last year ones from 98, still working fine. But it's just a matter of time.
I've had a couple of leak companies that were upstairs. They were both.
Yeah, we did like water alarms. I know we're gonna check for that this year. They're like $12. You put them with water heater under the dishwasher. The fridge has a line to it, and then also under the washer if you're providing a washer and dryer. But like I said, $12. If they make contact with water down there, it starts beeping.
We've
And
had
it
about,
now.
since we've done that for what, 6 months, we've
Got a
had about
couple. Yeah.
now 5 or 6
Yeah.
alarms go off. Most of them have been under the dishwasher, believe it or not.
So
Pump goes out.
one a month.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And that, it could have been nothing, but it starts as a drip from a dishwasher, and if it's not caught, it could be
You
worse.
just get those at Home Depot or what?
I get them off Amazon,
Oh,
but I think they sell them there, but they're more reasonable on Amazon. Yeah, the battery is a 3-year battery life. Yeah, and the ones I get that are reasonable, they won't like warn you when they go dead. So we'll be checking the date on them during our turnovers and preventative maintenance. But we know we're good for a while because we just started 6 months ago.
Yeah, and we do it in the fall. If you're asking like time frame wise, we like to do it when everything's rented. Now we have a bunch of vacancies because we're already in there doing those things. But we schedule our preventative maintenance during the fall and winter months. A little easier.
And when we did that water heater project last year, we've seen probably a 75% decrease in the amount of water heater leak calls we've had. And the ones we have had are old ones that they opted out. It's an optional item for our owners, but it has drastically reduced the amount of floods we've had, period, but water heaters dramatically. So preventative maintenance, talk about rental assistance. There's a lot of forms for tenants, ways for tenants, even still, there's still COVID money out there for them to get assistance. They'll pay rent, just navigating that. I would encourage you to accept it, but a lot of the times that's a one-time thing. They'll pay their rent for this month, or the church will, or maybe it's 3 months, but then when that runs out, do they have a way to to get you back, to continue to pay. But it's still weird. It's weird. Sometimes it goes directly to the owner. Sometimes it comes to us, and it's kind of navigating that. Accounting, obviously, there's always room for error in the accounting process. So do you use at least QuickBooks or something to keep your accounting straight, depending on how many units you have? Dealing with tenants, never fun, always difficult, and can be, again, back to the trying to keep satisfaction high, trying to avoid the he said, she said. We do a lot of things through email, which I would encourage. Phone calls, unless you have a phone call recording system, it's going to be he said, she said. That's why we try to do as much as we can through email for documentation. Obviously, a good phone call is always needed, but if you do that, maybe send an email summing up what the conversation was. And it's easier to remember. I will not remember what a conversation I had 2 days ago, but if it's in an email, I can at least reference it. So
Yeah, if you go to court, those emails will do you some.
yeah, otherwise it's he said, she said. Vendors, it's difficult finding a good vendor. It's difficult keeping a good vendor. Right now, they have as much work as they want in the valley for the most part. So our volume luckily allows us to continue to be a priority for them. So the onesie twosies are probably tough out there. So think about that. A good vendor, for having a vendor or two for every job scope would be a good idea. How do you handle your after hours emergencies? Just answering your cell phone at night, or do you have a call center or whatever? Vacancies are obviously tough. That's just a risk that we always get. That's one of the biggest concerns is two concerns for our owners is what if they, they're going to trash my place, or what happens if nobody rents my property. So historically, our property managers have better luck, but that remains to be seen because we follow a consistent and strict rental criteria, whereas you don't. If you're less than 5, you can set it however you want. You don't have to really follow, but we try to set it up the tenant for success. We don't want them to pay more rent than they can afford. As soon as a car breaks down, you're going to be shorted on rent probably. So, and then do you have a strong lease to protect you in court, or to protect you civilly for your deposits? Deposits is one that's not on here, but releasing those deposits to them in a timely manner and itemized is required, or you get to go to civil court. Civil court's not scary, but it's still, you're at the courthouse, you're waiting, you're mitigating with them, and it's not fun. It takes a long time.
Well, one question about the leases. Have you found that you've been able to cater a lease to a specific tenant, or do you just do a boilerplate, like to try to cover everything? Because once you start modifying one to fit a specific need, you might not be writing the correct language. I mean, what is there a risk with that?
Yes, I would suggest one lease.
Yeah.
You will get confused. It's for us with the company, we have to have one lease. The only difference in our lease between one and another is whether it's lead-based, potential lead-based 378 or not. That's the only difference between our two leases we offer.
Check boxes are really good. We have like yard care. There's definitely some options in there, and then when you fill out the lease, you can check that one. But just having it in there, yeah, it's going to save you so much time.
And if you want to look at a lease, our lease is on our website, so you can look at it. Yes.
I was just gonna recommend, I've used easy landlord forms for a couple of years, probably in one place in Washington. And it'll let you go state specific. It'll update in real time for any changes in laws, like an NSF check fee is different in Idaho than Washington. So it has some catches in there. Yeah. Just automatically tell you, hey, don't charge more than $20.
So we've been around for 28 years, and almost everything in our lease, we either shared with our national NARPM, or it's in response to something that came up that wasn't in the lease that we couldn't really address in the way we wanted. That now is an addendum or a clause in the lease. So after 20 years, we've learned about almost every lesson. I will never say every lesson, but almost every lesson there is. So it's on our website if you want to look at it. But yeah, there's definitely other options out there. So Now it's our, do you need a PM? And if you do, here's some things to think about. So read the reviews and the testimonials. Your Google reviews is big. Yelp around here is not very big. It is big in other areas. Google is the #1 out here. Look at what's listed. Look at the pictures. Maybe go by the property, and then compare prices. Some are all inclusive, more all inclusive property managers. Some are very low percentage, but then a lot of hidden fees. So just do your research. It's worth it. And so you don't get caught in a situation you don't like, or surprise fees is a big one. Size, some people want the small PMs when they're looking because they'll be a portfolio style. I'll get a lot of attention, which is all true, but there's cons to that is the volume. A lot of times when we look at rental rates, rental comps, we can look in our own portfolio and have actual rents. When I look on Zillow or wherever else I look at comps, which we do, what it's advertised at. You don't necessarily know if it was rented at that. So we have a good internal, so bigger is sometimes pros and cons to bigger, small. There's pros and cons to a portfolio where Ryan would manage everything on 100 properties versus departmentalized where you have an accounting, leasing and maintenance departments specialize in those areas. So there's pros and cons out there, and both of those are out there. And then property manager plug would be it's productive to potentially productive for you as to have a PM. They kind of do a lot of the work that you're doing, getting those after hours calls and kind of dealing with that stuff. So your time is worth money. So do your hourly rate, and is your hourly rate less or more than you pay a property manager? And kind of view it that way as if you're basically putting in so many hours, you're making $15 an hour, it might not be worth it.
25 years ago, when I bought my first property, I did property management right away. And it turned out that it was far more expensive for any little repair. The repairs were done horribly, and I was having to do a lot of what I call babysitting of the property manager. And so I said, you know what? I'm doing all this work to get the property manager to do their work. And so I stopped doing it. I've self-managed all these years. And I'm tired of self-managing, and I'm looking at, okay, maybe that was a one-off, maybe they're not all that way. And so I don't know if that right there, if that information is going to help me know what makes a good property management.
Well, it depends what you're looking for. I would say you want somebody like you. I would meet with them. I would like physically meet in person versus phone call. Obviously, to vet in the beginning, I would talk on the phone. Don't waste your time. But look at their website. Like I said, look at their properties. I would look for in-house maintenance, somebody that has in-house maintenance, only because your costs for little maintenance is going to be less than what it would be to hire a third party. But I will say that property managers for repairs are going to be probably more than if you go do it or you have a handyman that do it. For property managers, we require to be licensed, bonded, insured, all that stuff, which we got to have workman's comp and liability insurance. So you're protected if they screw something up in your property. Their liability insurance will cover it, or if they get hurt, their workman's comp will cover it. So not every handyman will charge as much, but they may not have that kind of insurance and stuff. And you want to look for somebody proactive. Like we can get.
That's the thing. How do you know if they're proactive?
So the management agreement should spell out what they're going to do. How many times are they going to drive by your property? How many times are they going to inspect your property? What do they have for routine maintenance? We do a fault servicing where you can it's optional to do you flush your water heaters? Do you service your AC and furnaces? Do you all that stuff? And then we're trying to be proactive with preventive maintenance, shower splash guards, water alarms, stuff that is some money up front, but will save you down the road to not have a huge water claim. Or for instance, we put drip mats under sinks. Steal this idea. That way, if there is a small leak or they spill their bleach or whatever they keep under there, it's on a mat you can throw away. You don't have to replace the whole bottom of your cabinet, and then you get the 4-letter word. That's not a cuss word, but it's mold for spoiler alert. Yes,
Does First Rate have a standard hourly rate they charge?
Yes.
Owners for maintenance,
yes,
general maintenance and.
yeah, we do. Would you like me to share that with you? We charge 45 an hour. So a lot of people are out there about 55, 60. So
That's pretty fair.
Yeah, so-
that's pretty.
And then your tenants, we have the same text, so they're meeting these people, they think it's a little more personable than just having random vendors come through your house all the time. So they get to know our text.
yeah, so we can control timeliness, we can control prices better, we can control quality and service.
And that's all because of size, because you have like, you said, like over 1,000.
Yeah, we're at 1,100 doors, so it's not necessarily properties, because we have some 32 units and single families and everything in between, but yeah, size, there, you do have to be a certain size to be able to have enough business or enough work for a person. So right now we have 4, though. We have 4 techs. So. But do your homework. I would, liking who you're working with is a big deal. Back to your question, and being preventative is probably the best thing, because costs are still rising. All this, we talk about real estate and rents, everything's peaking, slowing down. The costs are still going up. So that's the biggest threat I see to your bottom line, is just trying to control the costs. And so our best way is trying to be proactive. We're also offering the used appliance option we just started. So you pay X for a used or X for a brand new. We'll do either one. Doesn't matter to us, but at least we have options. Now,
It sounded like there's a lot of choice. A landlord gets to choose.
yeah, there's not a lot that's mandatory for us maintenance wise. The annual inspection is just for liability. But outside of that, it's all yay or nay.
Yeah.
So,
And another one about like knowing, testimonials are great too. If you talk to people that have properties with the property manager, they're gonna give it to you straight up. And depending on how many properties, like we do have a testimonial part on our website where there's a couple owners that have opted into answering questions and stuff like that. And then they have like their unit counts and stuff. So there's owners that have 30 properties, there's owners that have 4. So.
things to think about when we talk about how do you like make it more appealing. Well, there's a lot of things that we can do. We'll touch on briefly, but there's capital expenditures in this. That can be a tax break depending on how you and your CPA do it. But a lot of times the capital expenditure, like a new HVAC system or appliances, windows, some of that can be depreciated differently. But I'm not going to pretend to give you tax advice. But when you do look at some of this stuff, if you're considering some of these, it may be a tax benefit to you. Another thing, location is big. Before I would have told you all day long, BSU. But until about 4 months ago, I would say, I would not say to do that right now, based on rents alone. Property value is probably still a little bit higher over there, but our rents have just softened and more so there. And just we're still getting showings, we'll still get them rented, but it's just slower.
They have choices. It
Slower
seems
and
like.
lower.
It's not like they're in such a rush.
And then property features are what's going to catch the tenant's eyes, what the tenants care about, what do they not. You need to know that. You don't necessarily want to go like quartz granite countertops in a complex that's mediocre next to BSU. That's probably going to get broken. Or North End probably do want to consider that. So there's times where we're going to tell you, don't replace your shower surround and do tile surround. You're not going to see a difference. Or don't do your countertops, or if they're dated, just do a laminate overlay. It depends. So you can waste your money in theory. So you want to be careful and just make sure you're doing the things that are going to see a benefit and that match the area you're in. And then that kind of renovations, amenities, that kind of goes to what is your strategy? I believe that regardless of your strategy, upgrading would be wise, but it really depends on kind of what you're after. Anytime you do an upgrade where it's taking about 3 to 5 years to get the true payback on that doesn't include your property value. I don't know, it's probably changed since, but For every $100 you increase, you get more in rent. If you go to sell your investment property, that is equating to about $20,000 in property value. So if you do a renovation, you can get a couple $100, you're probably paid for your renovation in property value. Obviously, you still have to recoup that in rents, and that payback is 3 to 5 years. But there are some benefits, like we talked about, the capital expenditures to doing that. Upgrades. A lot of people are worried about only the interior and not touching the exterior. As a matter of fact, we had somebody that beautiful interiors, outside siding was wood that hadn't been painted in years. We recently took these on, and it really looked like the siding had caught on fire. It was so warped from water and everything. And I had to tell the owner, like, it's beautiful inside, but your curb appeal, like from start, when they pull up, you're not gonna get what you want and what you could. So I would say exterior doesn't have to be beautiful, but exterior does matter. It really sets the tone. So I would have advised them to do minor upgrades and fix the outside versus the other way around. So like there's a lot of easy things, cabinets and faces. A little tip, there's a website out there that does, you can reface your cabinets. There's multiple out there, but we use one where get the cabinet measurements. They send you pick your style, your color. They send you all the faces and all the paint and the hardware. And then you basically just replace the drawer and door faces. And it's brand new. Looks brand new. As long as the guts are good on the cabinets, that's what I'd recommend versus a whole redo of the cabinetry, unless your layout and stuff like that. But as long as it's a decent layout, I would go with what you got and just facelift. It's called Quick Kit is the one we use. KWIKIT, I believe.
Yeah, again.
KWIKKIT. There might be only one K in the middle, but Quick Kit. And you can get new faces and kitchen, a pretty decent normal single family home kitchen will be about $1,500. Obviously there's labor involved in that, whether you do it or you have somebody do it, but that your supplies cost is probably roughly $1,500, give or take. You can do gray, espresso, white, different styles, the shaker, slab, different color poles, the hardware. So that's what we've been doing on a lot of the properties that we found to be much more cost effective and gives you the same impact. Yes.
Going from the cabinets to the countertop, I've seen a lot of people, places or websites or whatever, doing this like epoxy countertop stuff. You guys do that, or do you?
We do have a vendor that does it, and they do a good job. Problem is it doesn't last as much as a laminate or anything else. And it's about half the cost of laminate, but it'll probably last 5 years is what we're seeing in a average used rental unit. So you can do them. We do them on tubs and showers. There's a different same concept, different material, but so we do it. It just doesn't last as long.
So when you say it doesn't last, what happens to it?
So it starts wearing, or if it gets scratched, it can still scratch, just like somebody cutting on it. So you can still get a cut, and depending on who did it and if they still in business, it's the same as laminate. If you can't find the exact match, now you got to redo the whole thing. So it's kind of pick your flavor. I don't necessarily dislike it. It won't last as long. So if your strategy is like, I'm going to fix this place up, get the rents up and sell, that's the way to go. If your long-term holds and you want it to last longer, then you need to look at laminate, or if it's depending on the area and the style, then quartz over granite. Quartz is supposed to be more hardy.
I did it in a bathtub and I was thrilled for the first 2 years. And then when it just started, like, I don't know, little holes everywhere, and there was no reason we could not even the whole tub happened.
That's where I came.
Yeah.
So the sledgehammer, there was a catch there and tug.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough, but it's a short-term solution. It'll buy you a little time, but it won't fix it.
Yeah.
You say it works well on the tile around the tub surround.
For same thing. They warranty it for 5 years, but not in a rental situation. Technically, there's no warranty, but they've covered us for a couple years on that. But at your home, it's supposed to be a 5-year deal. Flooring, painting, appliances, a lot of the easy stuff. I would not very often recommend knocking out a wall unless it's like a simple job or major, like redoing your kitchen if your layout's fine, or going to quartz or granite if it's not in the right, if it doesn't make sense. Some of those stuff. The other big one is tub shower surrounds. A lot of them are, if they're newer, have a one piece that's tub shower all in one. If you have those and those are in good shape, I would say keep it until you can't, because that's one piece. There's no seams, there's no caulking, there's none of that. As soon as you go with the new shower surround, whether it's 3-piece, like still like the plastic vinyl, PVC, whatever it is, or tile, there's maintenance involved in that, whether it be caulking or tile having to grout, and the tenants are going to struggle to maintain your tile shower. So I would ride your one piece until you die. You can't, they can't replace them that way, because basically they do it during it when it's being built and they can fit it in. They can't fit in a one piece after the fact. So that's a little learned thing as we've gone. And then if you do whatever you're doing, make sure you shout it out. If you're proud of your unit, make sure you're advertising it. There's virtual tours out there. You can do it yourself. We do that. We use a website called iSpy 360. There's several cameras they recommend that are compatible. You take a 360 camera, go room to room, and then you use their software to stitch it together. Pretty reasonable, depending on how many units you have. It's like, I think it's $50 a month, or it goes up from there, depending on how many listings you want to have active on it. And you can deactivate and save them, and it not count against your 25 or whatever you get, and then reactivate should it come back up. So it saves it in their database, so you don't have to redo it. Wide angle lenses are good pictures, good cameras. To be honest, the iPhones, if you've got a last couple 13 or 12, even last couple, are just as good as most cameras out there. So that's what I'd recommend. If you got an old phone, a flip phone, something, get something with them that's gonna present better. And where are you being advertised? Zillow is the #1 right now, from where we're getting our leads. #2 is our own website, but I'll be the first to tell you that Zillow is out there.
So are you paying for yours?
Yes, we do pay for Zillow.
What kind of?
They charge $1.65, I think, a day. But we have so many, we're on a bulk plan, so it's not that much for us. But if you have onesie twosie, I think the last price I saw individually is $1.65 a day. It's worth it. I didn't think so at first, but we track where our leads come from, and it's Zillow, and then our website, and then you've got your Zumper, Facebook, all the other ones are a little bit.
And your sign now is way down here.
Yeah. And then the online presence. If you have a website, it's important it shows up on page 1 of Google when you're looking property managers in Boise, or units, rental properties in Boise, somewhere like that. You want to show up on page 1, maybe 2, but typically nobody goes past page 1, or definitely not past page 2 when they're looking for stuff. So your SEO is important, and the Google reviews touched on. People look at those, and having good reviews also helps where you place on Google.
What is SEO?
Search engine optimization.
Oh, okay.
So when you search, or where are you going to show up, higher or lower? And if you're not on page 1 or 2, it's very rare anybody will go past that. So that could be important. That SEO doesn't really cost you. You can have pay-per-click. There's some things you can do to pay, but if you can do it organically, it's effort and not cost on your side.
So you found that the SEO reviews go up, or like you get higher placement on your Google page now that you're associated with Zillow?
Yeah.
Have you seen any?
No, I haven't seen any correlation there. But their algorithm, Google's algorithm, nobody knows, but it changes all the time. So,
We have
and
like,
some reviews that come through, they don't post, they don't allow, they filter it out, good or bad, they filter out sometimes, so it's a difficult thing to do, but luckily the website company we use for our website helps us with all of that, so we don't have to. Yes.
Do you do any like rental by room?
We do not. A lot of people do. We don't, only because we don't want to place two separate tenants that don't know each other. We place them in their own bedroom, and then in the common area, maybe they get into an altercation, and that could potentially come back on us because we screened and placed them. That's why we don't do it. It just becomes messy, and so you come to us with your roommates, and we'll screen you all, and if you're approved, you're good to go. So you can get more rent money that way, but it's just, it's more difficult in the can of worms you may or may not want to open. So hopefully you retain some information on the rental market. It's, in a nutshell, I'll repeat, it's more of a plateau, slight dip. Part of the dip, though, I am thinking is the time of year. So in Boise, or in the valley, anywhere with 4 seasons really, is you get into the fall through the winter, early spring. That's your slow time. So we purposely have our leases, something to think about, have our leases expire April through August. So that way, if they don't renew and they move out, we've got a property listed during the peak time to get it re-rented quicker for potentially more rent. So something to think about. So then, okay, you've got, what if you have one coming October, then maybe you only do a 10-month lease, so it's back in August, or maybe you do a 20-month lease. You can be flexible with your lease times, but I would suggest having it expire in that peak time, so make your life easier.
Are you writing longer leases now?
We are not. Might be a good thing to start again. We did a 1 and 2 year lease option, or roughly, for a long time. And then we were finding when the market was going so high, so fast, if somebody signed a 2-year lease, when they came up, they were $500 below market. So they were getting a big bump, and it wasn't best for the owners. So now we're right in that 12-month lease time. And we're keeping a close eye on that, because it may be something we need to reintroduce depending on how this keeps working. So. All right, any other
Yeah,
questions?
thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Very important question, what do you charge?
So we are mostly all inclusive, and it depends on the area and stuff. We're anywhere from 7 to 10% depending on units, area. We already got properties out there, then we have a deduction. If there's multiple units, we have a deduction. So. And that includes almost everything except for advertising, and then when a lease up fee of $50. So.
Can you take care of Boise, Canyon and Ada County?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not CUNA or Star.
Lease up fee means when,
Anytime a new or renewal lease is $50 charge.
even if the tenant stays in there
Yeah.
every year.
A release or a renewal.
What was the other extra fee?
Advertising. We just don't know how long things are going to be on the market, depending on
If you have a ton of properties, there's a limit. It's like 120 or 140 or something. That you'll never pay more than that much if you have like 8 vacant units that month or something.
Great information.
Thank you.
You know what, I'll do a quick recap, theoretically quick. So, in Ada County, you're gonna get more than you would in Canyon County. It's about $150 difference between the 2 counties. And then 23 days versus 16 days.
Yeah.
So 23 in Canyon versus 16 in Ada.
both. We're seeing
Or
that
both.
increase about.
Oh, okay. So it's important to have all your roommates on a lease, and that way, if somebody jumps, then they're still responsible. So litigation is crazy, so make sure that you have an attorney, make sure that you have all of the paperwork, proper paperwork. A good lease agreement is super important. Make sure you know the law. So just remember that you cannot charge for support animals, but you can charge for pets. So it is a good idea to consider allowing pets so that you can charge for them. Let's see. Online systems makes it easier to collect rent. So you're not going door to door to collect rent. Water alarms are a thing and encouraged. Helps you know if you have a leak and maybe do some great prevention. There is still rental assistance available. I think there's quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
We have seen pretty much, I don't know of a tenant that hasn't reached out and not gotten assistance with a valid reason.
right. Yeah. Let's see. Encourage email communication so that you have documentation. And again, make sure that you have a strong lease. Do you have a property manager? If you need one, make sure you review the reviews on Google and on the website. Compare prices, do your research, look at the pros and cons. What's going to work best for you is not necessarily going to work for another person. So make sure that you're a good personality match. And then as far as improvements, capital improvements, upgrades like that will, let's see, I lost my place. Capital improvements will get you like 100.
I would say about $200.
$200.
To the rented.
Okay,
Granted, both of those numbers are plateaued or slightly going down, but you're still getting $200 more on a renovated unit than you would be
all right.
on it.
And upgrade wise, it's going to take you 3 to 5 years to get that paid off. Okay, remember that the exterior is important as well. And if you have a one-piece tub or shower, keep it because those are gold.
No mold will grow.
No mold.
In that area.
Another thing that I just thought about the roommate thing, a good way to also combat that is we won't let a roommate off the lease unless there's a $0 balance. So that way they're starting fresh and stuff, they're not holding a balance and tapping forward a roommate, they're in the whole $1,000, another roommate's like, well, I moved out. Well, it's like, well, you're still on the lease because you didn't do a roommate adjustment, so you're not liable. But yeah, having them have a $0 balance before they part ways is another good way to combat that. So,
Perfect. So advertising, consider doing virtual tours and using wide angle lenses. The new iPhones do a great job. And if you have a website, make sure that it's up to date. And Zillow is #1 for leads. I think that's all right. I think that's everything. Thanks so much.